Welcome to the Speak Up English channel. Are you ready to embark on an exciting journey of language learning? At Speak Up, we're passionate about helping you improve your English listening skills. Our lessons are packed with engaging content, including short talks, conversations, reports, news, and captivating short stories. So grab your headphones, sit back, and let's dive into the world of English together. Remember, every word you listen to brings you one step closer to fluency. Let's make this learning adventure fun and rewarding. Subscribe now and join our community at the Speak Up English channel. Let's learn, laugh, and grow together. Subscribe to Speak Up.
French wine. Vine intervention. Why the French are drinking less wine.
French schools once prized the nutritional value of wine. So commonly was it served to children that in 1956 the government banned wine in school canteens, and even then only for the under 14s. France was the world's biggest wine producer last year. A bottle of wine has long been to the French meal what fast driving is to the German motorway, a humdrum habit, national right, and personal pleasure. No longer. In 2022, roughly 10% of French people drank wine every day, down from half in 1980. Back in 1960, the French drank an average of 116 litres of everyday wine per person. Between 2000 and 2018, that shrank from 28 litres to just 17. A glass of wine, let alone the once familiar pichet, is an increasingly rare sight at the lunch table. What is going on? It's not simply price. A bottle of rough Bordeaux can still be found in a French supermarket for under €3. That's $3.25. Some village cooperatives sell local produce straight from the vat for €1.90 a litre, less than fresh orange juice. A better explanation is that a beer drinking trend is challenging Mediterranean habits. The French now tell Poles that they prefer beer to wine. Beer, including craft brews, accounts for more than half of all alcohol bought in French supermarkets. Even in southern France, some cafes serve imported Belgian or German beer on tap. Most important, a health-conscious younger generation is drinking less. A quarter of French 18 to 34-year-olds say they never drink alcohol. Fully 39% of under 35s say that they do not drink wine, next to only 27% of the over 50s. Le Dry January has entered the national lexicon. No and low alcohol drinks are spreading. In an attempt to speak to Generation Z by adopting its codes, Pernod Ricard, a drinks giant, runs a marketing campaign with the slogan Buvez plus d'eau, drink more water, although presumably it means in between downing its spirits too. Of course, French enophiles and importers keep fine wines flowing. Consumption of high-quality wine remains strong, but the decline of cheaper stuff has wider repercussions for France. Last summer, the government allocated €200 million to buy superfluous low-end wine that producers could not sell. In some areas, farmers are ripping out lesser vines altogether. Less booze may improve health, but not necessarily the mood or landscapes of rural France.
Listen carefully. You will hear a conversation between a student, Andrew, and a student advisor, Monica, about a diploma course.
Excuse me, I was told to come here for advice about management diploma courses.
You've certainly come to the right place. Hi, my name is Monica.
Nice to meet you. My name is Andrew Harris.
So, Andrew, have you seen our diploma course prospectus yet?
Yes, I've already looked at it. In fact, I thought the information on course content was really useful. But I'm afraid I'm a bit confused by all the different ways you can do the course. Full-time intensive, part-time, and so on.
Well, let's see if I can help. I think each course type has its advantages and disadvantages, so it really depends on you, your own study habits, and your financial circumstances, of course. Are you working at the moment?
Yes, I've been working in the administration section of the local hospital for the last 3 years. And before that, I worked in the office of a computer engineering company for 2 years. So I've got about 5 years of relevant work experience. And what I'm hoping to focus on is personnel management.
I see. And are you planning to leave your current job to study, or are you thinking about just taking a year off?
I want to know what my options are, really. I don't want to quit my job or anything, and my employers are keen for me to get some more qualifications, but obviously it would be better if I could do a course without taking too much time away from work.
Right. So you don't really want to do the full-time course, then?
No, not really. It's also a question of finances. You see, my office have agreed to pay the cost of the course itself, but I would have to take unpaid leave if I want to study full-time, and well, I don't think I could afford to support myself with no salary for a whole year.
OK. Well, you have two other possibilities. You could either do the part-time course, that would be over 2 years, and you wouldn't have to take any time off work, or you could do what we call a modular course. You could do that in 18 months if you wanted, or longer. It's quite flexible, and it would be up to you.
So what does the part-time course involve?
For that, you would join an evening class and have a lecture twice a week. Then you'd have to attend a seminar or discussion workshop 1 weekend a month.
What kind of coursework would I have to do?
Well, it's a mixture. You'd be expected to write an essay each month, which counts towards your final assessment. You have a case study to do by the end of the course, which might involve doing a survey or something like that. And also you need to hand in a short report every 4 weeks.
So that's quite a lot of work then, on top of working every day. It sounds like a lot of studying, and really tiring.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't have much free time.
What about the modular course? What would I have to do for that?
Well, that's where you get the opportunity to study full-time for short periods. That way you can cover a lot of coursework and attend lectures and seminars during the day. And each module lasts for 1 term, say about 12 weeks at a time. There are obvious advantages in this. The main one being that you can study in a much more intensive way, which suits some people much better.
And how many of these modules would I have to do to get the diploma?
The current programme is 2 modules, and then you have to choose a topic to work in more depth. But you can base that on your job, and so you don't need to be away from the office. And how long it takes is up to you. The important thing is that you don't have to study and work. You can focus on one thing at a time.
Yes, I can see that. It certainly sounds attractive. It would be more expensive, though. I mean, I'd have to support myself without pay for each module.
That's true, so that might be a problem for you. Look, why don't you talk this over with your employers and then come back?
Listen carefully.
Thomas W. Phelan, Ph.D. 1, 2, 3, Magic. Effective discipline for children 2 to 12. Do you like your kids? Of course, you love them and care about them and want the best for them. But would you say that, for the most part, you actually like being with them? Do you miss them when they're away and rejoice when they unexpectedly come home early? Don't feel bad if your answer isn't an immediate and resounding yes. Raising kids is hard and often unrewarding. They don't come with an instruction manual or warning label, and a lot of parents find themselves overwhelmed and unprepared. The cozy family nights and endless laughter and cuteness that you envisioned before they came along often take a back seat to the tantrums, attitude, and arguments. kids don't always do what you want. They scream when they don't get candy, or they throw their toys down the stairs, or they hit their siblings. This leaves the exasperated parent to navigate the delicate task of discipline, often resulting in the predictable and tiring process of talk, persuade, argue, yell, and, unfortunately for some, hit. Before you know it, the afternoon is wasted, everybody is miserable, and the child hasn't learned a thing. Imagine if discipline could be something quick, simple, and consistent. Think of all the extra time you would have to actually enjoy being with your child. In this blink, you'll learn a method that has helped thousands of parents do just that. With a bit of preparation, patience, and practice, you can implement these techniques with your kids today and start living the family life you always wanted. This isn't magic, but it might feel like it. You'll see. Children, not just little adults. Picture this. Your 7-year-old daughter has spent the whole morning tormenting her 5-year-old brother, hitting, name-calling, provoking, the whole lot. Of course, this behavior is unacceptable, and it's important that she realize this. So you sit her down and calmly explain why she shouldn't do it. It's not nice to hurt people. It makes mommy angry. And how would she like it if someone teased her? The 7-year-old, in a brilliant and mature flash of insight, realizes the error of her ways and brightly declares, "Thanks, Mom, I never thought of it that way." Sounds ridiculous, right? Because that's not how children work. They are selfish. They are unreasonable. They are, quite simply, crazy. The first thing you're going to need to do is challenge this common assumption that kids are just small adults who can be reasoned with. This doesn't mean there's no place for explanation. Tell them once if you need to. But if you're repeating yourself, then it's only going to be irritating for all involved. And this leads to the two biggest mistakes that parents make while disciplining: too much talking and too much emotion. For a kid, too many words can be distracting or confusing, and as you just saw, they often don't work. But why is emotion bad? Kids, by design, are pretty powerless. So when they are able to get a strong emotional reaction from the big, tough grown-up, they get back a little control over the world, and that's immensely rewarding for them. You can see how this would interfere with their ability to learn something productive from the situation. This is hard for some parents to do. Talking and expressing emotion are pretty fundamental parts of being human. But you're going to have to keep it to a minimum if you want discipline to be effective. At the end of the day, you have 3 main jobs as a parent: stop bad behavior, encourage good behavior, and strengthen your relationship with your child. So how can you discipline in a way that will help you do these jobs? Keeping in mind the principles just looked at, let's address the first role of parents: stopping unwanted or obnoxious behavior. Controlling obnoxious behavior. As easy as 1, 2, 3. It's coming up to 6 p.m. and you're preparing dinner for the family. Or at least you're trying to. But your 4-year-old son is screaming on the floor at your feet because you had the audacity to tell him he couldn't have a peanut butter sandwich. You've been here before. Books have told you to ignore the behavior. Your husband wants to spank the boy. Your mother, bizarrely, has suggested a cold cloth on his face. Nothing works. So today, you are trying something new. You look down at the screaming toddler, hold up a finger, and calmly say 2 words. That's 1. Nothing happens. The screaming continues. You let a few seconds pass and raise another finger. That's 2, you say clearly and firmly. Still nothing. The boy has used up his 2 chances. You take a breath, hold up 3 fingers, and announce, "That's 3. Take 5. Now off to the bedroom for however many minutes. The general rule is about 1 minute for each year of the child's life. When the timeout is over, the door opens, and the day continues as normal. We'll get to the nuances of the timeout later, but for now, let's focus on what you did during the count. Or rather, what you didn't do. You didn't add any comments or reprimands during the 5 seconds between counts. Things like, "Come on now, that's enough," or "Look at me while I'm talking to you," turns it into a fight, and any child would love that opportunity. Note that there was no lecture after the timeout. Your child isn't expected to explain their behavior, reflect on it, or apologize to anyone. They know what they did. The discipline is over, and everyone moves on. This might seem deceptively simple at first. When you start implementing the count, you'll be making it all the way to 3 most of the time. However, if you stick to the rules and stay consistent, after a few days, something amazing will start to happen. Your child will pull their act together after 2, or even 1. Some may even learn to preempt the count and stop themselves before it starts. There are, of course, some caveats. If the child is doing something particularly dangerous or unforgivable, then don't give them 2 chances to stop. Jump straight to 3 and add 10 minutes to the timeout if necessary. Also, spare a thought for what you consider countable behavior. If your child is just fussing because they are uncomfortable, for example, it's best to address the source of the problem. With that in mind, you can start whenever you want. Sit your kids down and explain how things are going to be. Do some role-playing so they know what to expect. Now let's take a look at timeouts. Getting timeouts right. Let's say you've stuck to the rules and your little monster has just thrown her food or talked back or whined about dinner for the 3rd time. You give her a, "That's 3, take 5. And then what? There are a lot of options and alternatives when it comes to the timeout stage. Firstly, you need to get them there. A lot of kids will quickly learn to go on their own, but in the early stages, they might need a bit of encouragement. A step toward them should send them in the right direction. But if not, you might need to escort them, pull gently by the arm, or carried kicking and screaming to the timeout room. Just remember not to say a word. If they're too big to wrestle with, or a timeout is simply not feasible, you can consider timeout alternatives. These could fit the crime. If the kid is throwing a ball inside, then take the ball away. You could also consider things like earlier bedtime, loss of screen time, or extra chores, to name a few. Be creative, but make sure to keep it fair and reasonable. You're trying to give them an unwanted consequence, not satisfy a parental lust for revenge. Okay, they're in their room. Now what? They stay there for the designated time. Some children will try to leave, which can be countered by blocking the way. You don't want to turn it into a game, however, so consider getting a baby gate or even locking the door if you're comfortable with that. Whatever you choose, the child has to know that they are confined to their room until time is up. But what if they trash their room? Let them. Hopefully, you removed anything valuable, sentimental, or unsafe from it. But it's their room. They're free to do whatever they want during timeout. This includes having fun. The point of the 1-2-3 method isn't actually the timeout. It's about the interruption of the behavior. If they go into their room and happily play with blocks for 5 minutes, you've succeeded. They might even stay in their room after it ends, and that's fine too. Finally, what do you do if you're out in public? The counting process will remain the same. You'll have to hide any embarrassment or pressure you might feel if you're being watched. For the timeout, you can use the alternatives mentioned before, or take them to a seat or private place if you think they'll stay. A secure shopping cart makes a great cage for a toddler. With timeout out of the way, let's have a look at another problem you may run into early on: testing and manipulation. Children testing boundaries. The 1-2-3 method is pretty frustrating for a kid. And when kids are frustrated by their parents, there are only 2 things they can do: tolerate the frustration and cooperate, or test, manipulate, and emotionally confuse the parent to get what they want. If you're lucky, your kid will learn to cooperate early on. However, if you have a manipulator, you'll need to learn to recognize it and respond appropriately. There are a few different types of testing that you can expect. For a lot of parents, these will be painfully familiar. Things like temper tantrums or threats to run away from home. Some children will try to butter you up with declarations of love or promises of good behavior. This can be nice, but ask yourself, why does this only happen when the kid's being disciplined? One of the most common tests is badgering, in which the child tries to wear you down by repeating their request or complaint, or just sings the chorus of "Mom, Mom, Mom." They are basically telling you, give me what I want and I'll leave you alone. Kids can stick with this for a long time. Some kids turn into little martyrs when disciplined. They'll tearily tell you how life is so unfair or claim that you don't love them. Some will punish themselves by refusing food or staring despondently out the window for hours. No parent wants to see their children upset or suffering, and children know it. By far the most common testing strategy is a combination of badgering and martyrdom. You would know this as whining. No matter what your child chooses to do, just remember, they're trying to get what they want. The worst thing you can do in these cases is give in. Sure, the testing will stop immediately, but it will be back in force next time. So what do? Simple. If it's not too aggressive or obnoxious, just ignore it. If it's particularly bad behavior, then count it. There's no rule that different misdemeanors can't contribute to the same count, so add it to the count you've already started. If they've already reached 3, start a new one with increased consequences. Your kids know you love them, so just stay firm and do what you know is best. If you're in doubt, count. Routines and reinforcement. The 1-2-3 method is great for getting kids to stop doing unwanted things. But as you know, this is only one side of the parenting coin. There are endless things you need them to start doing. Things like cleaning their room, getting ready for school, or doing homework. The counting method will work, to an extent. The catch is, it can only be for smaller tasks. Counting creates a short burst of motivation, which is great if you want them to stop whining or throwing a ball inside, but won't make a kid get ready for school. It's best used for something that would take less than 2 minutes to do, like hanging up a jacket or brushing teeth. If you want to encourage more long-term behaviors, you have a few options. Something as simple as positive reinforcement goes a long way. It's often a lot easier to notice bad behavior than good, so praise can be overlooked. When your kids are quietly playing, acknowledge it. Praising your kids when it is unexpected or in front of other people is particularly reinforcing for younger children. Another useful tool is a kitchen timer. Tell your 5-year-old that you bet they can't take out the garbage before the 6-minute timer runs out, and they'll jump up to prove you wrong. Charting behaviors and setting reward milestones can also be great reinforcers. All of this should be in service of your main goal, establishing a routine. Routines are essential if you want your kid to consistently do what they need to do. Take the process of getting ready in the morning, for example. Your routine might vary, but the basic components would be to get out of bed, get dressed, have breakfast, and leave the house on time. For little kids, timers and basic charts will get this done. Put a star next to each task as they complete it. Older kids can benefit from some natural consequences. Tell them that the morning routine is now their responsibility, and sit back and watch. They'll quickly learn the importance of getting ready on time. Similar strategies can be applied to bedtime and chores. Keep it structured and predictable. Children don't particularly like spontaneous requests to do something, and if they see it coming, it'll be less disruptive. But if they start acting out or doing something they shouldn't, don't forget the 1-2-3 method. You can count on it. You've just listened to our blink to 1-2-3 Magic by Thomas W. Phelan. The main thing to take away here is, it's easy to waste a lot of time on discipline. The 1-2-3 method and the motivational techniques you've just learned are fast and effective, and will let you spend less time arguing and explaining and more time actually enjoying your children. Because that's your final job as a parent, to strengthen the relationship. Talk to your kids and actually listen to what they have to say. Give them space to learn and grow by themselves, but be there for them when they need it. And most important, have fun one-on-one with them. Play games, go out for ice cream. They'll be grown and gone before you know it, so make sure you're making the most of the time you have. That's where the real magic is.
Listen carefully. You will hear part of a lecture given by an economist about North American women's attitude to money and saving.
Okay, so we've been looking at the attitudes of various social and cultural groups towards the management of their personal finances, how important they feel it is to save money, and what they save their money for. One aspect that we haven't yet considered is gender. So if we consider gender issues, we're basically asking whether men and women have different attitudes towards saving money, and whether they save money for different things. Back in 1928, the British writer George Bernard Shaw wrote in his Intelligent Women's Guide to Socialism and Capitalism that a man is supposed to understand politics, economics, and finance, and is therefore unwilling to accept essential instruction. He also said, a woman, having fewer pretensions, is far more willing to learn. Now, though these days people might question a lot of the assumptions contained in those statements, recent research does suggest that there are some quite fundamental differences between men and women in their attitudes to economic matters. Let's look at what men and women actually save for. Research studies of women in North America have found that women are far more likely to save for their children's education, and they are also more likely to save up in order to buy a house one day. The same studies have found that men, on the other hand, tend to save for a car, which, by the way, takes a surprisingly large amount of the household budget in North America. But the other main priority for men when saving money is their retirement. When they're earning, they're far more likely to put money aside for their old age than women are. Now, this is rather disturbing, because, in fact, the need for women to save for their old age is far greater than for men. Let's consider this for a moment. To start with, it is a fact that throughout the world, women are likely to live many years longer than men, so they need money to support them during this time. Since women are likely to be the ones left without a partner in old age, they may therefore have to pay for nursing care, because they don't have a spouse to look after them. Furthermore, the high divorce rates in North America are creating a poverty cycle for women. It is the divorced women who will most often have to look after the children, and thus they need more money to look after not just themselves, but others. So what can be done about this situation? The population in North America is likely to contain an increasing number of elderly women. The research indicates that at present, for women, it takes a crisis to make them think about their future financial situation. But of course, this is the very worst time for anyone to make important decisions. Women today need to look ahead, think ahead, not wait until they're under pressure. Even women in their early 20s need to think about pensions, for example, and with increasing numbers of women in professional positions, there are signs that this is beginning to happen. Then research also suggests that women avoid dealing effectively with their economic situation because of a lack of confidence. The best way for them to overcome this is by getting themselves properly informed so they are less dependent on other people's advice. A number of initiatives have been set up to help them do this. This college, for example, is one of the educational institutions which offers night classes in money management, and increasing numbers of women are enrolling on such courses. Here, they can be given advice on different ways of saving. Many women are unwilling to invest in stocks and shares, for instance, but these can be extremely profitable. It is usually advised that at least 70% of a person's savings should be in low-risk investments. But for the rest, financial advisors often advise taking some well-informed risks. Initiatives such as this can give women the economic skills and knowledge they need for a comfortable, independent retirement. The increasing proportion of elderly women in the population is likely to have other economic consequences.
Speak up.